Okay, how's it going? I really want to connect and help people who want to create games that are awesome, games that are representative of visions that are in their mind, right? I want to see people working together as teams, bringing their collective, skill sets together in such a way that they can work in harmony, so they can work productively. And that's really what's behind this project, you know. In addition, you know, becoming a great context just for learning about computer science and art and about oneself and potential. I want to share some things with you, some broad perspective things with you right now that are very meaningful. And I just had to put this out there. And so this is the CS1 Game Engine, right? And you might still be saying, hey, yeah, game engine, what do you mean by that? How can that be really a game engine? Well, you're going to be able to make some really nice games with it. So it's going to be a game engine in that sense. But you're like, hey, man, what about, Unreal Engine or, you know, Unity Engine? Yeah, what about them? Those are some great engines. Those are fabulous. That's what I'm creating right here. I'm creating something that's much more approachable. It's going to be web technologies first. It's going to be very, very powerful when it comes to semantics, the words, the language of creating things is going to come first. That's why this API that I'm creating here, this domain specific language API, is so important. The words, the names of things are so important. And the processes. What is a valuable thing to do in the context of creating a game in the game engine? Well, I plan on, I'm going to release this whole engine open source. Whether or not I'm the only person that ends up contributing lines of code to it, which at this point I am. I'm already using, I'm already using A-Frame and 3JS. I use components as well that are made by other people. I fully acknowledge them wholeheartedly. But I'm building out a lot of tech on top of those, and it's going to be put in such an organized fashion that people can be very productive and come up with some really outstanding results. And it'll be basically an actual source library, software source code library. And it will be created in such a way as well that if somebody wanted to create their own graphic, their own editor on top of it, with a graphic editor with file system and their own build system on top of it, it will be perfect for that because the UI is going to be so easily bootstrapped onto the with the library because of the way that this API is being created. Okay, so I do plan on making a commercial, actual full blast editor in the future, provided this all goes well. That's where I'm headed. That's why I'm not doing that until the underlying engine is created, because you can definitely create games without having a graphical UI. And there's actually graphical UI built into this, right? Because A-Frame's wonderful. The guys over at Super Medium kicking into A-Frame, all the people that have kicked into the A-Frame community have all done wonderful things. For example, if I on my computer just go Control Option, I'm on a Mac. If I go Control Option I, it'll open up the inspector, right? There's already ways of just using this inspector that will give you feedback about what's going on in this scene. And you can already use this kind of as an editor somewhat, right? You can go into that Jukebox Editor. You can see how it has these components on it. It even has a design component on it where it's referencing if you look over here, the color over here, it's has this comp params. It's been put in there. So I'm obviously referencing certain parts of the jukebox there in the design. The jukebox itself has all these particular properties. So you can go in, you can inspect a lot of things, you can change, properties in here. So this can be used as sort of like a discovery interactive GUI. Yeah, and all of that's there out of the box, and that part's thanks to A-frame, and then the rendering, of course, a brilliant job with the 3D rendering and so forth is 3JS at this point. But I'm building a lot, outside of that, even beyond A-frame, which is an entity component system, and really 3JS, which is a rendering engine for rendering the actual graphics in the 3D. Those things, in fact, I've been studying those separately and designing how to design really good, entity component system, lower level graphics, how to create, a rendering engine. So I've been putting a lot of time into those things as well. So down the road, if I wanted to, put it, basically replace like 3JS with my own rendering engine, or, replace, the entity component system with my own entity component system, you just do that, right? So there's a lot of thought being put into this. Let me go into, let me open this up option. Let's open up the JavaScript console here, right? And let's go. All right, so those errors are just showing up because of the inspector. Kick those out. All right, so what's going on here? Let's just back up with a few things and just, I want to make some sense to people about, let's look at first of all some design themes. I know I just shared with this earlier, but design themes. And if I go to the neon theme, that's the one that's showing as purple as the primary color. But what if I change the primary color, which is currently like that purplish color? What if I change that to boom, 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 boom. What would be a good color? Rather than that, what if I changed it to salmon? Is that a color? Yes. Is that? I think it's a color. We'll find out. If I hit that, and we'll see what shows up. If it's not recognized the color, it'll turn white probably. Let's see if it next time around, if it gets recognized. So next time, there it is. Oh yeah. Let's see. There it is. Yeah. So yeah, I recognize the salmon right there. So themes are very important. You can set themes and you can set them dynamically just using the set theme. I have in the background on this example, I just obviously have this interval going. I keep on setting the theme back and forth. Themes can contain anything, as I talked about earlier. What I want to point out here as well is the media system. So I've only really been working on the sound system so far. Think about the way I'm designing this in terms of how easy it would be to tie into this with a graphic user interface. So if you're a front-end designer and down the road you're following this project, you're like, well, I can build a really nice editor on top of this. Yeah, because that's that's what's foremost on my mind as I'm creating this, as well as just having users be able to use it exclusively from the code end and not even use the graphic UI. So if I go over here to sound and I go to library, so there's now a library, and the sound library has the actual sound entities in it. So I made a decision recently just to go and say a library, like if you go to a public library, has like books, right? They'll have other things, but let's just say like books. And the books are physical things. Those are the actual things. It's a book library, if you will. And it has books. They have the real books. But they also have a place in the library. They kind of like where they register all the books. I usually call it like the catalog, the card catalog. Nowadays, they don't really, a lot of times it's on a computer now. But back in the day, back when I went to school, it was like a card catalog. You have all these index cards and all the information about the books and a little summary maybe, and where they're at, author and all that stuff. And so the registry is going to be like that, and the library is going to be for the actual sounds. And the actual sounds means that they're already loaded into the program. Those sounds can be played like even from the going directly from the library. So if I would go over here, just to show you, those are actual sound entities. So if I go down here, like jump, okay, yeah, I can literally go right on here, and I'll just go play sound right on that. So I can go right from the library, and I can access them directly. And it's not the way it's really designed to do, but you could do that. You could just go down through the library like that. Okay. So those are the physical things, just like you could walk through a library and pick up a book and read it, right? So, but just think about it. Maybe all the books that you're going to read in a year, that might be 100 books. Maybe you're going to read 100 books in a year. You're not going to go, the first time you're going to go use that library, you're not going to go get those 100 books out and sign them all out. No. No, you might plan your time out ahead of time and look through the card catalog and kind of say, yeah, these are the books that I want to get, or what have you, throughout the year, and plan your use of the books. But you're not going to go get all those books up front. That will be way too burdensome to do that. Same thing goes here in a game. In fact, you may have all the sounds for a game in mind that you have maybe bought rights to, assets that you have in a CDN or something. And you have all those in a registry, but not loaded into the sound library when the person plays the game. So that's the same thinking here. And it doesn't even have to be when they play the game. It could be even, you might register sounds in a registry, as we'll look at here in a moment. And you might basically set up your own base game that developers for your company could build on. You could set up the registry, and you could basically set up the registry for all your assets, and then it's already built into the engine at that point, and then they can just reference the different media, such as the sound, video, or images. Again, I'm only working on the sound at this point. So this is really well thought out, right? So until the actual user, until that sound is actually being called up either by the developer or the user, it's not even loaded into memory and cached, right? So this is really a way to optimize things and a way to work better in a group of developers or by yourself making something. Let's look at the registry next. Let's go over here. Cs1 media dot sound dot registry. And we'll see right now the sound registry doesn't have anything in it because if you look at the code for this little demo, I basically just created the sounds and I didn't register them ahead of time. When you run the create command, it will create the sounds and it will store them in the library. But you can pre-register the sounds as well. So if I wanted to register a sound, you can see this is an empty object right now. And the registry is just going to take basically a name and a URL, or it can have a mapping made with an entire whole object. So if I go over here, sound and register, so I can do this. I think I already done this before. So what if I did, this is a whole object. So let's just take a look at this. It's not going to really make sense this is not a URL. But let's just say, well, let me back up. Let's go to the themes. I decided since I did that, I might as well go ahead and let me add something to the themes. Let me go over here and say how these work together, right? How the whole thing comes together. What if I went over here? cs1 dot themes dot neon, and then I'll just get a dot sing. I'm going to add, and I'm going to say sing URL. I'm not going to get an actual URL. I'm just going to make a point here. And just say I did the same thing for the other theme. What's the other theme? It's pastel, right? Right. Again, this would be actual sound URLs. All right. So say I did that. Now, by doing that, now I might do something like this, what I was doing before there. Whoops. Hold it, register. Where's that at? There we go. So over here, what's going on here? So I'm saying CS1 media systems, sound system, register a screech sound, and then this will be a URL, an actual URL, which this isn't, pointing to some like MP3 file or something. And then crying sound, and this would be like a URL for the crying sound. And then singing, maybe that's going to change based upon the theme. So you can make theme-dependent things that actually point in the registry as well. So you can creatively think about how you're using even themes along with registering things and sounds and all. The whole system is designed to work intuitively together. So if I registered using this object I'm passing into register, boom, nothing happened, right? No. Watch. If I go in here now to the registry, you're saying, oh, why didn't you just write it directly? Watch when I go to the registry now. Whoops. Hold it. That's because I had all this other lines. Oh, okay. Let me get rid of all this other stuff right here. But yeah, since I registered that with that object, now the registry has all those references in, those URLs. Oh, and sing, oh, I thought I set that for sing to be, oh, I know what I did, Doy. I didn't change it to sing, I had it to primary color. All right, anyway. Okay, so the CS1 media sound registry has that. Now what if I wanted to go ahead and do the same type of thing, but I just wanted to register one more sound. I didn't want to register a whole set of them like that at the beginning. You can just do it one at a time too, and it'll just detect that. The sound, this would be new sound, and then new sound URL, just to make a point, right? So if I do that, now if I go back to the registry, now we can see the new sound and new sound URL are added. Of course, we can just go right into the object and change it, but those are to be semantic about what we're doing. It's not that you couldn't go in and change that, but you're wondering, what is the value of this? These are just like URLs and names of things. Well, when and if the user needs them, when the developers are writing the code, the language for the system is set up very naturally that if they wanted to create, you would just have available for them. They can just look in the registry and then just take a peek at the registry and they can see what sounds are available. So if there was a creaking sound, or something like that, they could go create over here. So they could use the CS1. They can use the create API, and they could just mention if they wanted to make a crying sound, they can do that, and that will create the crying sound, and it will actually return the actual sound. So I just say cry sound or cry. I can just call it cry right now, and it's not an actual URL, so it wouldn't work. But this is the idea. So I can say cry equals, create this crying sound. So right over there. And that's what maybe the developers of the game would be accessing. Somebody would set this up at the beginning. It could be the same developer. You can just set it up ahead of time. But the idea is that now we create that. Now we have this reference to the sound. We can put it wherever we want. It's a 3D sound. Down the road, I'm going to make it so you can add effects to it. And it's going to be all very intuitive, that you can just explore the objects. Especially if you do this in like VS Code or something, you have anything with code completion, whenever you go in, it'll be just like this. You'll be able to see the API. You can see the API so far. The top level API, cam, design, flags, game, input, jukebox. And jukebox was actually added from the CS1, from the jukebox being, the jukebox was actually added from the primitive that was added, the A jukebox added itself onto there. So I will also make community available primitives that you can decide to use, and some of those are like so top level important that we can just make a space for them in the top level of the API as well. and the scene, access to the scene, the utilities, um, the rig, the camera is inside the rig. I just put those both at the top level. And then the game, the design system, right, the media system, right, and then so far we're just working on the sound subsystem of the media. And then in the future, I'll be adding like a video system and then an image system, um, and so forth. And then within each of those systems, I want to get the sound system right first, and I'll do similar stuff in the video system and then in the image system. But I want to get this kind of the language, really well ironed out first. So, and I also want to get to the point where I can even have effects, and that's all built into it. So if you're wondering, hey, I might not even use some of these really deep APIs. Hey, that's fine. That's why I'm trying to keep things very semantic as you're going through, kind of like the global object, and you're kind of exploring it, and I'll eventually have some nice tutorials that go along with this. As you're getting familiar with it, it should just make sense because you could even read the API, and it should just be fairly clear what you're doing, and then what you pass into these methods, if they're methods, should be quite clear and empowering too, with very empowering with some of the overloading that's being done. All right. So I want you to think about this, and I want you to reach out, because maybe you're an educator, maybe you're interested in teaching students about computer science, and you yourself are interested in learning this more deeply, or making games. Maybe you're a front-end developer or a back-end developer, full-stack developer, and you're out there, software engineering, all kind of wonderful stuff, but you want to really get into just a fast kind of project where you can make some cool games with. Well, this could be definitely something for you, worthwhile for you to look into. All right. So I said my piece here for today. Please reach out and have a wonderful, wonderful day.